I'm Jay, and this is my hetero life partner, Silent Neb. Teneb the Harvester, my #1 guy, my bestest boy. I've also built him 15 plus times. Unfortunately, not joking. If you're unfamiliar with Teneb, Teneb is 3, a green, a black, and a white for a 6/6 with flying. Whenever Teneb the Harvester deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 and a black. If you do, return a creature card from a graveyard into play under your control. Now look, I know there's some heavy hitters in the same colors that are also Reanimator, but Teneb has a special place in my heart. So Teneb it will be. My Teneb list is a solid power level 7, I'd probably say. It's a battlecruiser deck based around ramping through the early game to rush out creature threats, to use throughout the mid and late game to smash face. When they inevitably handle our threats with like removal or board wipe, we just reanimate them back into play. If that game plan doesn't work, the deck's resilience and alternative ways of bringing home games like theft or attrition can do the trick most of the time. If all of that doesn't work, our microaggressions, gaslighting, and manipulating our opponents usually work, but sometimes the mental fortitude's a little too strong. Anyways, this deck's very good against other late game decks, like other battlecruiser lists, Voltron, Reanimator, most Simic decks, Timmy decks. The only late game decks that it has problems with is Control, due to it having answers to our creature threats in the form of removal, board wipes, and counter spells, and handling our Reanimator with said counter spells. It also has a little trouble against Spellslinger decks for the same reason, because they run a lot of control cards in them. And any deck that sets out to win turn 4 or 5, goes without saying, beats my ass a lot of the time. Other than that, the matchups are fairly even across the board. If that interests you, well, let's jump into the list. Let's talk ramp. This is the cornerstone to all of my best Teneb decks and all good Evil Knievel stunts. Applying early pressure with mana rocks or ramp leaves us susceptible to highly aggressive creatures or combo decks, but it locks in our mid and late game, which is where we want to be and where we thrive. We've got the classics like Arcane Signet, Coalition Relic, and Soul Ring, but adding in creature ramp is extra good in Reanimator because they have a chance of coming back later on in the game. Cards like Delighted Halfling, Fabro Elder, or Poison Dart Frog. Yeah. Pretty good. Extra good in this deck. Now, this is where I'm a little different than other Reanimated decks. You know, where I'm a little different than other guys. Other people focus on filling your graveyard early with big creatures and then cheating those creatures into play early. My Reanimator decks have a little more je ne sais quoi. Mine are based around using massive amounts of mana ramp to rush out those creatures as quick as possible, and then use Reanimation to keep those creatures and threats in play. Yeah, I don't mean to brag, but it's a pretty good strap. Pretty good. With 11 draw spells, 9 removal, and 2 board wipes, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the deck. Sorry, I'm back. I had to go get some meat and potatoes. Midgame Threats are right in the sweet spot. With the amount of acceleration we run, we can easily cheat out a mid-game threat as early as turn like 3 or 4, with them definitely packing enough of a punch to change the tide of a game. Vorinclex is great as he gives us lands in hand to guarantee more late-game bombs, as well as just being able to flip into a self-mill that cheats stuff out of grave, which... yes. Veto of the Dusk Rose wins more games than I can count, giving us a board wipe, lifelink, and drain, and Lord of Extinction is just huge. These mid-game threats can win on their own, and are good enough to reanimate late game, and win then. Speaking of which, as with any good Reanimator deck, we got some big bad boys in here. A few of my favorites are Shieldred Whispering One, who reanimates tons of our stuff while making opponents sack. Titanoth Rex is actually amazing in here, as he puts himself into the graveyard, draws you a card by cycling, and gives a trample counter to Teneb so he can smack face more. I mean, actually designed for this deck, it seems. Beladros Witherbloom is another one of my favorites, as it makes chump blockers on each turn, and it also untaps all of our lands for 10 life, which when paired with our veto is great, and a large portion of our mid and late game creatures also reanimate like Karmic Guide, so we can chain stuff together. It works really well. With all these high-value creatures on our side of the board, we need stuff to protect them. With a total of 10 protection spells, we got plenty of ways to keep our stuff safe. Some of my favorites, outside of the classic boots, are Mother of Runes, 8.5 Tails, and Skrelv, as they put in triple work: 1, protecting our threats, 2, allowing Teneb to deal combat damage, and 3, being a creature that we can reanimate as well. All great options in this deck. And speaking of reanimation, our opponents are probably going to handle these threats. Even though we have a ton of protection, they might have more removal. We got plenty of reanimation to get them back if they're not exiled, a total of 13 reanimation spells. We've got the classics like Reanimate, Animate Dead, Dance of the Dead, naturally. As previously stated, Karmic Guide and creatures like that are very good because they can chain together. Sun Titan's another great one. And then we've just got the big heavy-hitting late-game reanimation spells like Portal to Phyrexia and Boneyard Parlay to kind of end some games with. And I guess while we're on the subject of ending these games, outside of just smacking face with our steady stream of threats and our giant dragon commander, we do have some more dialed in ways to bring home games. Now, my big gripe with people and how they build decks is they win with like one card out of nowhere, and it feels as though you need to like set up an engine to win for me. You know, I feel like you need to earn it. Teneb, on the other hand, does not share this opinion. Veto, End Raise, and Akroma's will end you in one turn. No feelings involved. But getting into some more specific ways we win in this deck, Lord of Extinction plus Altar of Dementia. This is a pretty solid way to knock someone out of the game. This will mill someone for pretty much their deck. Lord of Extinction's power and toughness is just equal to the amount of cards in all graveyards. Not specific cards, just all cards. And then when you sack it to Altar, you can easily mill someone for 40, 50, 60 cards and take them out of the game. So that's won me a couple games. Kakusho plus Reanimation plus Sack Outlet. This has won me plenty of games. You just play Kakusho, sack him, drain everybody for 5, you gain 15, reanimate him, sack him again. And if you've got more reanimation, you can take it even farther than that. A lot of the time, that 30 life gain gap will bring home a game. And Doom Blast plus Teneb is one of my favorite ways to win in here, because Doom Blast just wipes everything except for one creature. You just pick Teneb, and then when you smack face with Teneb, you pick one of our creatures that chains into another creature. So let's say you Doom Blast, wipe the board, smack faced with Teneb, get back Karmic Guide. Karmic Guide gets back Sun Titan. Sun Titan gets back Feyburrow Elder. And we were pretty good looking at that point. And then, like I said, outside of these specific ways to win, all of these massive threats that we just keep putting into play should win us the games. And finally, the most valuable card in the deck is easily Key to the City. This card was made for Teneb. I swear, every time I look at it, I'm like, there's no way this wasn't specifically made for this commander. By discarding a card, you can make a creature unblockable. Yeah. Discard a fat creature, make Teneb unblockable, smack face, get back the fat creature you just discarded. On top of that, if you pay 2 when it untaps, you draw a card, which is just gravy. Easily the best card in this deck, with Titanoth Rex being a close second because, again, seems like it's kind of designed for this guy. And that's pretty much it outside of lands because, you know, run whatever lands you want. If this deck interests you, go ahead and take a look at the full deck list. It's down below in the description and comments. Let me know what you would change about the deck. And since I showed you mine, it's only right you show me yours. Head over to r/NixLotus to submit your deck list for Friday night deck reviews. Much love, guys, and go play some Magic.